Tonight, I'm really thankful for it. I've had the opportunity to meet this gentleman this year. He's got a lot of great stories about hunting. I'm really glad to meet his acquaintance. He's also basically a neighbor of mine here in Remsenburg. So, Joe Privitera from Island Outfitters. Good to see you, Joe.
Pleasure.
How are you?
Very well, yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good. Joe, again, before we get into your business and so forth, I'm sure I've heard a little bit about it, your history as a hunter, and I'm sure our viewers will want to get your bona fide, so to speak, before we get into the business. What brought you into hunting? What's your affinity, your passion for hunting?
I started about when I was 8 years old. I used to go upstate with my father and just walk behind him.
Where was that?
Upstate in the deposit.
Okay.
And we just, back then upstate was cold, and all I remember is my feet would always freeze, and I would be like, Dad, my feet are cold, and just wiggle your toes, wiggle your toes.
Were you wearing blue jeans or were you wearing camo at that
No,
point?
we had, I had, some camo,
Right.
but more orange than camo, and, but that's really where I started.
And you've been hunting ever since then?
Ever since.
Right. You mentioned deposit. I personally have property in Edmonston.
Okay.
We get off deposit. That's what, 84 of 17?
It's 84 of 17,
Of 17.
Route 8.
Right, exactly. Route 8, exactly. That's exactly where we get up there.
We used to hunt more state land than
Right.
private land.
So you've been hunting all then. Now, you've hunted not just upstate, though. You've hunted on Long Island
Well,
as
when
well.
I started, like I said, I started when I was 8, and then when I was 14, I went for my hunting license, got my junior license, started, rabbit hunting, as well as Craig said, squirrel hunting, pheasant hunting, small game.
Right.
And then at 16, you were allowed to get your big game. So I went and got my big game, and then I was allowed to hunt with him upstate on my own.
And you mentioned, I know from talking to you and just hanging out, you don't just hunt within New York. You're actually a hunter who goes out and hunts other states. And
Yeah, we traveled Midwest. I've been down to the Carolinas, Kansas, Wyoming.
how was that?
It's experience.
Right.
It's an experience. Everybody should try it. On horseback, elk hunting, mule deer.
That sounds just phenomenal.
It's.
But one of the things though, I have to bring it up. I watch the Outdoors channel all the time, and as a New York hunter, you're watching these monster bucks being taken and so forth, and it seems like it's so easy for these guys. And you and I have talked about it, and it's saying, I'd love to challenge them to come to Long Island or New York and see the different challenges. Just talk a little bit about, from your perspective, who've experienced both, the challenges, because a lot of hunters, particularly new hunters that get out in the field, and they may not be seeing anything, or they're only seeing doe, or they're only seeing relatively small bucks. They have to understand that it's just a different game here on Long Island, and New York for that matter.
Yes. Well, here like we spoke before, there's too many does, and the rut activity isn't like it used to be years ago. But you go to Midwest, the doe to buck ratio is where it's supposed to be at, and it's just unbelievable. There's just a buck in his eye is just fight.
Right.
Competition, and it's just, I've seen bucks walk around, 160s, 170s with racks just full of blood, their backs just gashed up from fighting, and it's a total different experience than hunting Long Island.
And so you feel basically a lot of the reason for that is that we have too many does.
Strongly, I believe that it's part of the problem, yes.
Right, absolutely. I know we talked about, which I thought was a novel idea the first time I heard it from you, actually. You said, before you're allowed to harvest a buck, you have to take a doe.
Which
would be interesting.
what they should do, like they do in Jersey.
And they do that there. Yeah, that's certainly interesting. So let's move on to your business. Now it's Long Island Outfitters.
Long Island Outfitters, we have a guide service for waterfowl, geese and ducks, and it's also a business for taxidermy studios.
And do you do any deer guided hunting, or is it just waterfowl?
No, not here on the island, because it's just, as well as you can see, it's not like you go in private land or anything. You go to a tree stand, and 90% of the guys go to their tree stands, and tree stand's gone. So how do you send a client to a tree stand?
Right.
when 50% of the chance is it's going to be stolen.
Right,
And
right.
that's another problem here on the island. So, plus it's the limited places to hunt unless you lease farms. I mean, we have farms we lease, but we kind of keep the deer hunt to ourselves
Right.
and just use it for the waterfowl.
So the waterfowl, tell me a little bit about that. What's basically what to expect? What if I was to wanted to go out waterfowl hunting? I called up Highland Outfitters. Basically, what type of services, what type of programs do you offer? Or what would I expect to get if I called up?
Well,
and
if you
said,
first
"Joe."
time you're waterfowl hunting, you could expect probably to be divorced because 90% of the guys they take that never did it before, they get so addicted. They call me up. I'm in trouble. I just spent $6,000 at Cabela's on all waterfowl gear, but it's fun.
Right.
It's real fun. I mean, we have pit blinds, we have shore blinds, and we have standing blinds and farms, and it's just just have a flock of geese come in 20 yards.
Right.
And, pretty much be on top of you. It's just...
So is that basically in Suffolk County? Is it the East End, Long Island?
It's on,
Where
we
are you
have
taking guys
farms
out?
on the North Fork, Mattatuck, Riverhead.
Okay.
It is in Suffolk County.
And if we called Island Outfitters, would you be actually accompanying the
I do,
person?
I'm
or do you-
owner and operator.
Okay.
Yes.
So meaning that you're there on every hunt?
I'm there on every hunt.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Do you have anybody that works with you at all, or?
I'll have, once in a while, I'll have somebody just come help maybe put decoys out and move stuff around, but I don't send clients out with other guides, only because it's gotta be professional.
Right, right.
I did have guys that worked for me before, and it was just problems.
Sure.
Where they were shooting when they're not supposed to be shooting. It's the clients only that shoot.
Right,
They're paying for the hunt, it's their hunt.
sure.
And I've had guys, you kill a goose with a band, they're over there with a pair of pliers, taking the band off, and not telling the client. That's their birds, that's their band, just give it to them.
Right. What, so for those people who haven't, I know there's certainly a lot of waterfowl hunters. My immediate crew are more deer hunters. If we wanted to get involved in hunting waterfowl, what are the things we need to do? Do we just get our license? I know you gotta get a stamp.
Well, you have to buy a duck stamp from the post office, and you need to get them early because they do run out.
They do?
And then on the back of your license, there's a waterfowl hip number that you have to register.
Okay,
And once you do that, you basically can go anywhere it's legal, you're 500 feet. On the bay, you legally can hunt behind someone's house as long as you're below the high tide mark and shooting over open water. Which is
Okay.
like if you're gonna hunt the bay or whatever. Or you can get permissions from somebody that has a pond or something.
I hear a lot though that there's like select blinds that are out there and.
That's in Southampton Town.
Okay.
Southampton Town claims they own the bottom of the bay,
The trustees,
yes.
right,
So in Southampton Town, you have to have a registered spot, and that's your spot for life until you give it up,
for life.
until you give it up. You have to register it every year,
Is there a waiting
or
list
it's
for
every
that?
2 years, yes there is.
Okay, I imagine.
Years ago there wasn't, now there's a waiting list because everyone's getting into this waterfowl. But you have to register it every 2 years. If you don't, the spot will be given up to the next person on the list.
Right,
You cannot hunt in Southampton unless you're a Southampton Town resident or you're with a Southampton Town licensed guide. So if you're from Brookhaven, you can't just go out in Southampton and hunt waterfowl.
so it's just only, it has to be for
It's
Southampton.
residents, and then, like I said, if you're from Brookhaven
Right.
and you want to do a waterfowl hunt, you have to contact or know someone that has a Southampton Town guide license.
Is that only Southampton, or is that?
That's, as
set
far
up
as I know,
similar
it's only Southampton. Brookhaven, you can go wherever you want.
Okay. I imagine in North Fork probably
The same thing.
same exact thing.
If it's not Southampton Town, if it's Riverhead Town, there's no restrictions.
Right, right.
You can hunt wherever.
All right, you mentioned the other part of your business.
Taxidermy.
The taxidermy, and I've personally had the opportunity to go into your studio.
Yep.
I was amazed at what was on the wall. It was just unbelievable. Is there a place where people can view your work?
We are
It's
working
just
on a
fabulous
website
stuff.
now. We're working on building up a website now because I used to do taxidermy years ago. I got out of it and I just got back into it. So we're building the website so they can see the work.
Right.
I mean, it's,
But I think also if anybody is visiting Dick's
Dick's Sporting Goods in
Sporting
Riverhead,
Goods.
yes, we just got their account,
Isn't
so
there,
our work is hanging there.
some, you can basically, when you go to the hunting session, look up on the
Look up
wall,
and all that, yep.
and that's basically,
That's all our stuff.
that's all your
That's all
stuff
our
that's
stuff,
up there.
yes.
And probably a lot of that game was taken by yours truly.
It's
no?
all my personal stuff and
Right.
my girlfriend's geese.
And your girlfriend, and your girlfriend's keys. You had mentioned a little bit, and not knowing, about taxidermy. You had mentioned to me when we were talking briefly about the steps that you take to really ensure the quality of your work, and you were mentioning the insertion of wires
In the birds.
within the birds, as different than a lot of taxidermy studios do. Want to talk a little bit about that, about kind of what sets Island Outfitters apart as far as the quality?
I do all the work personally. I mean, there's other taxidermists out here that are good, but I like to take it a step above. Put the bird on a nice scene or make it look real. I'm more like into the artistic part of it than
Right.
just mounting a deer and putting it on a wall. We do stuff where there's snow scenes around them, logs, and just give it more character, make it look more natural.
Now, I know on this side of the business, though, you mentioned with the outfitting that it's, yours truly who's out there, but on the taxidermy side of the business, I think you have an apprentice, right? Isn't that?
My girlfriend,
is that
man,
right? Right?
she's learning.
At the-
Actually, the Canadian goose and the snow goose in Dick's, she actually did.
Right, and that's great, and I got
And
to see them, and that's,
she loves it.
yeah, that's
She's a
real,
big help,
that's really something.
big help.
In relation to the taxidermy, just to explain to hunters in there, if they're interested in bringing, a harvest to you, for instance, say we're in a field and we get a nice buck. Now, we want the buck butchered, and yet at the same time, we want to, maybe
Get 'em mounted.
get it mounted.
Yeah.
What's the process? What should happen first?
Well,
Should
a
you
lot of the
bring it
but-
to them? What do you do as a hunter? Do you call you up if the deer needs to be butchered? Do you go to the butcher first? What's the process?
A lot of the guys bring the deer to the butcher first, and the butcher will skin it to the neck, and then they'll give me the hide and the head, and then we fletch it off the head and take it from there. But like I said, most of the butchers